Hello, this is Michael Hexter. Welcome to Politics 2100 here on YouTube. So, this episode I'm calling Should AOC Run for President in 2024? So, this is I have not consulted with AOC, and I am not, I don't have a relationship with her or her campaign managers and staff. I just to sort of as a preamble, I do donate to her. I've supported her since her primary in 2018, and I have observed her since that time, since 2018, and am generally supportive of her and what she does. This particular moment, she is facing a little bit of criticism for her handling of the Amazon unionization drive in Staten Island, which is not her district, but still, uh, you know, she is, got some criticism for that. But in any case, AOC is, let me just taking a step back from these details. I acknowledge that she's a figure of somewhat controversial figure uh, in a number of places on the political spectrum, but at the same time, she's an enormous political talent, and I'm someone who is not totally, a fan in the sense of I'm a fan, let's say, but I'm not an uncritical fan, and I see where she um, uh, does make some, in my opinion, errors, or maybe there's some questionable decisions she's made, and on the other hand, there's a gray area where it's not necessarily where it's a matter of dispute or discussion whether there's something she might have done differently. And in the end, of course, she is the author of her own destiny, and it's up to her to decide, how she's going to run her political life. Um, but I think there's a very strong case to be made for her to run in 2024. Even though there are many, many people who are, even people who are sympathetic to her, who would pass her over. I've heard discussions of her. There are. It's not. This is not a topic that generally is being brought up. In a way, I'm bringing this up to raise this as a matter of discussion in the left, and also maybe even in her office, maybe in her own considerations of what she's going to do in the next 8 months, 10 months or so, because she really has about that much time to. If she were to run in 2024, she would have to, in late 2022, really be putting out exploratory feelers and and that's even late from in the point of view of presidential runs. But she would have to have composed a strategy really in the middle of this year to position herself for that run, and first internally, I think, and then externally in terms of how she presents herself and so forth and so on. And let me explain, why I think she should run in 2024. So, um, she she again is the most charismatic and uh, person on the left wing of the Democratic Party, um, and also extremely skilled politician for someone of her experience, which is not very long experience, and she's a very studious person. She's a very thoughtful person. She seems to be a very caring person. She seems to have a big heart, and that's important in a politician. And she understands. She's a savvy user of media in general. Again, sometimes she has fallen short. Sometimes she has, managed. one interview or another interview, so forth and so on, or one utterance or another as being awkward or being not showing her in the light that was favorable, or was also was not as progressive as I would want her to be on a number of issues. So, but she is also playing politics like everybody in politics is, and so she's positioning herself in different ways and keeping her powder dry in some ways, and in other cases, taking more risks. So anyway, so the reason why I think she should run is that people are drawing a blank as to who should either challenge Biden or who should replace Biden if he doesn't run in 2024. And they're drawing a blank in terms of who would be a likely successor to Bernie Sanders, basically as representing the left wing of the Democratic Party. And to me, she's the only one that would be a credible representative as of now. Now, in the future, there could be others, but right now, she's the only credible one. And basically, this proposal that I'm making is modeled on Bernie Sanders' 2016 run, which inspired her, among other people, and inspired many people. And so I think that a run by her, if it was well designed, and if it was based on the slate of issues that and of policy proposals that the left wants to implement, that are also very popular, that could win a majority if they were explained well in the context of a political campaign, a presidential campaign, explain well that she would garner a great deal of support for them. And so I think of her as being someone who has the potential, while she has charisma, while she has, she could use that magnetism to draw attention to issues, which she does all the time anyway. So she's also not someone who, in my perception at least, seems to be so egotistical and so self-admiring that she is drawn to this level of ambition that I'm hoping for her, which is maybe also a problem in some sense. You have to be somewhat self-aggrandizing to aspire to that much power, and so there are within her, I think, forces that make her choose more modest goals or more incremental goals for her own career. So I would understand her. I mean, I would understand her being annoyed. Let's say, I mean, who am I? I'm just a vlogger. I'm someone who, whatever. She might recognize my name because I, retweeted her a lot, and I don't know, maybe not. Or it might come across, or her donor list or something like that. But she would potentially be annoyed if she ever took the time to watch this video. She would be annoyed perhaps by someone, basically interrupting her own plans for her own life in a way, because I think she wants to incrementally spend more time representing her district, and then also maybe even become a senator, or I don't know, but anyway, to have sort of more of a normal political career. But I am proposing that we don't live in normal times, and there are a number of reasons why we don't live in normal times. We need to disrupt business as usual in Washington, and disrupt the succession process in the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party is not going to choose AOC to be the next candidate for president of that party, and by his own. In other words, the elite primary voters might, depending on how she campaigns and how she presents herself, and I think it would require an ingenious campaign and a different kind of campaign for her to do that, even different than the way Bernie Sanders ran his campaign. And I think she's capable of doing that. I think she is uh, has greater potential than Bernie Sanders to, and I don't mean to play them off each other. They're different people with at different points in their life, so forth, their lives. But she is, I think, more nimble in terms of language and in terms of dealing with the media and so forth and so on. And I think she has more of a sense of the power dynamics that she encounters and that we encounter. And I mean, Bernie Sanders has done wonderful work. I don't want to play one against the other, but anyway, I think that she at least certainly offers a different set of skills than Bernie Sanders, a different profile, obviously, and she could, with a well-designed campaign that is about her principles and about her service, her sense of public service, that she is about public service. And yes, there's ambition in becoming president and so forth and so on. There is an ego component to it, but there's also, for her and for some other reps, a component of enjoying public service and enjoying being of use to other people. And I think she would be of great use, okay, even if she fails, okay, to either win the nomination or win the general election if she won the nomination. Now, I think if she won the nomination, I think she would have a good shot of winning the general election. And that is assuming a certain evolution and a successful campaign in which currently her negatives, okay, are overcome by her positives, okay, because she is the target of lots of hate and lots of negative campaigning by her, the GOP, and also by parts of the establishment media, the centrist establishment of the Democratic Party. She would need to overcome those things to become the nominee of the Democratic Party. And I think that process would be a very creative process, even if it failed in some way or another, in terms of if she got second place or whatever in the primaries to become president. That process would activate, in other words, many issues that she cares about, and it would further those things along. Now, the thing is that her this requires her, though, to, in some sense, put her in a little bit of a difficult situation with regard to her district, because she is so service oriented. She wants to serve her district, but if she's running for president, it will be, her time would be split, so forth and so on, between campaigning and also serving her district. So, and her district might feel slighted by her attention to this bigger goal. And I think there's a way which she might be able to phrase it, or not just phrase it, but frame it for her current constituents, and saying, look, I think I can do more for you in a way by doing both of these things at once for a while, for the next 2 years, and see if it works out, and not that I'm going to be, if I whatever AOC were to become president, that I would necessarily, quote unquote, favor my district, but I want to create general programs that will raise up the living conditions of people in that district that currently are not possible for her as a single representative in a minority faction of the Democratic Party to be able to do. So I'm anticipating then one of her objections is saying, well, look, I don't want to become distracted from serving my district, who I've only served for 4 years. I want to I don't want to be, whatever, at least create the appearance of being so self-interested, you know, to run for president. But I don't think running for president necessarily could be considered an ego trip because of, anyway, this reason. The reason being, we need to act on climate very, very soon. We need a Green New Deal, not just as a resolution in Congress, but as actually passed within Congress and actually implemented. We need to be doing these things right now, and the current Democratic Party is not in a condition to do those things, and it needs to be reoriented toward the people, toward its constituency, and not toward the donors, the donor class, which currently the current Democratic leadership is favors over their actual Democratic constituents. So she needs to disrupt the succession process, or she would be the candidate, I think, who could disrupt that succession process, who would also have the magnetism, have the ability to convince people of the importance of this program or this platform, which some people are discussing as an economic bill of rights, or not just economic, but also social bill of rights, that a new social bill of rights that is being proposed in the form of these different planks of this emerging platform of the left wing of the Democratic Party. And so anyway, it's a move. It's to use Gramsci's phrase, it's a war of movement, in the sense of you're not. Well, there's also a war of position in there as well. But anyway, you're actually taking a step, an aggressive step, to say we need to change this succession process, or the coronation process, in a way, of Democratic leadership, and really get the current generation, push the current generation aside for a number of reasons. One is that they're leading the Democratic Party into the abyss. They're leading our democracy into the abyss by not fighting hard enough against the fascists, the Republican Party, and they're in bed with a number of or in cahoots with large industrial interests that are not, or corporate interests that are not in line with American values overall, or the future prospects of our society, because they are interested in short-term profit and not in long-term sustainability, in creating long-term prosperity for the American people, and instead just focused on their own economic, their shareholder value. They're creating a Ponzi economy of basically boosting share prices and handing out big bonuses to CEOs and so forth and so on, and a very loosely regulated economy where we have regulatory capture. So there's a whole host of issues that can be bundled together, and a presidential run by AOC or someone in the AOC faction, and AOC, to me, has the highest potential by far currently. Now, others might emerge who would be as good or better than her, but I don't know if that's so easy to do. And they could then create the case for these things and cut through, I think, some of the media and right wing noise machine that is keeping the American people from recognizing the benefits of a good government policy program that can help the American people. So anyway, in terms of her negatives, so dealing with how she's viewed negatively, I think that those are so easily, and to make those things to be durable problems with her are to underestimate her ability, or underestimate the ability of any politician of her caliber in being able to turn those things around. And she's very good at doing that. Turn negatives around to being positives. And for instance, she someone misspelled. And anyway, there's a video of her making fun of someone who called her a negative name, but misspelled that negative name for and she was joking around with her, I guess it's her friend or whatever, her boyfriend or someone, or anyway, that, or her partner, but who was in the off camera, but she was making fun of it. So I mean, that was kind of a cute video, and her dog was right there with her or something like that. So, but that's just a sampling of her ability to turn things around and to use language in a way that's creative, in a way that's, and yes, there are areas where she's been caught off her game, or off also just maybe there's some alignment issues that she needs to realign in her own in how she positions herself according to the America that she needs to appeal to win the presidential nomination and win the presidency. So she is from an urban district and so forth and so on. She would need to go on some listening tours to rural areas. She would need to find a discourse, or that was appealing, not necessarily changing any of her political commitments in terms of what she supports, but just to find a language that is not. Sometimes she does talk a little bit in an argot, or argot, and in a that's restrictive and somewhat exclusionary. Those words sort of drop in. Some would call it woke, but I'm all on board for people being awake and awoken to to injustice and so forth and so on. But there's certain phrases and so forth and so on that make people feel excluded by the concepts that are really just acceptance, and I think she has the potential in her to break out of that sort of maybe it's the product of a certain educated left culture that has grown up, and some of it's a little bit woke identitarian, okay, and it needs to, and she sometimes swims in that in a way that it doesn't necessarily mean she needs to abandon the principles behind that, but the language sometimes becomes a little bit of a block, and that's where the right wing sometimes, they're very inaccurate in general about her. They distort the hell out of her biography and her positions and so forth and so on. But there is a cultural resentment that she needs to find ways to overcome. It's the same cultural resentment that Trump has used to his benefit, and also people like Tucker Carlson, so forth and so on, and they create dishonest narratives about it, but still there is still an element, there are shreds of truth about a kind of a clannish, exclusionary, semi-exclusionary language, or just that is sort of a club handshake, so to speak, that is using a particular words or neologisms or so forth and so on, that are that make it that create the sense of being superior, that would make her a target in a place like Iowa, or in a place like Minnesota, and or Georgia or something like that. So she would need to maybe create a discourse that was about what she believes in, that it is not giving up on her beliefs, but a discourse that is about human dignity, and about, she talks about dignity all the time. And so these are things that she can universalize, and this is sort of a universalizing her values, really, or creating the, not universalizing, but taking the universal element of her values, which she has, and she can sometimes be very articulate about, and creating that making that the basis of a lot of her discourse, and which can be, I think, sometimes annoying to her, because she wants to play around and have fun sometimes, and that's normal, and she, it comes across as a very, likable and funny and person, and that could be part of her political identity, even as running for president. But on the other hand, it would require a creative acts by the part of her and the part of people who are advising her, to be able to make it possible for her to be this sort of avatar, okay, of these universal values that appeal to, mom and apple pie to some degree, and also, are her still, and are her, what she's concerned about, and her background, and what she wants to represent, and she can be all those things, I think. But it's and I, again, this is something that it depends on how it feels to her ultimately, and whether she's comfortable in doing this thing. But standing from the outside, we need someone like her to represent the real America of a multi-ethnic, multicultural, tapestry that is also striving to overcome our addiction to fossil fuels and to climate destruction, and also to self-limiting politics that keeps people down, that keeps the working people down, that keeps people from being able to live a dignified life. These are her core words, that her core values, that I think she could turn into this campaign. So anyway, I just want to stop here and see if you have any ideas in the comments about what I'm talking about. And I don't know if I've even explained clearly enough why I think she should do this. And again, who am I? I'm not someone who can, I don't have really a much of a vote in this, but I am just suggesting this, and let's see where it goes in terms of a discussion. So anyway, if you like this video, please like, and also if you're enjoying the content on Politics 2100, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.